Once upon a time, in a small, sun-soaked village surrounded by golden fields of wheat and gently rolling hills, there lived a humble farmer named Arun. His days began before the sun kissed the horizon, and his work ended long after it slipped away behind the distant hills. Arun's farm was modest, but every seed sown and every fruit harvested was the result of his dedication and hope. One year, the rains were late. The sky, usually generous with clouds, remained a stubborn blue. The earth grew parched, and the crops that Arun had so lovingly tended began to wilt under the relentless sun. Each day, he watched the leaves curl and the soil crack, his heart heavy with worry for his family and his land. Desperate, Arun remembered the old well at the edge of his field. It had been there for as long as he could remember, a circle of stones half hidden by wild grasses and memories. His father used to say the well had once been the life of the land, but for years it had stood dry and silent. Villagers called it the empty well, a relic of hope lost long ago. Still, hope has a way of lingering where it's least expected. One evening, as the village gathered under the banyan tree to share stories and seek comfort, Arun spoke of his idea. "What if we tried to draw water from the old well?" he suggested, his voice trembling with both uncertainty and resolve. Laughter rippled through the crowd. "The well is empty, Arun," said one. "You'll find more water in your own tears," joked another. The words stung, but Arun's eyes held a quiet determination. He believed that sometimes faith could fill even the deepest voids. The next morning, while the village still slept, Arun set out with his shovel and bucket. The well's stones were cool to the touch, and the air within was heavy with silence. He peered inside and saw only darkness. But Arun was not deterred. He believed that if he tried, if he truly believed, perhaps the earth would reward his faith. Day after day, Arun worked at the well. He cleared away fallen leaves, stones, and debris that had gathered over the years. He lowered his bucket again and again, pulling up nothing but dust and echoes. The villagers watched from afar, shaking their heads at his stubbornness. "He's wasting his time," they whispered. But Arun's belief was not shaken. He remembered his father's words. "When you believe in something with all your heart, the world often finds a way to meet you halfway." Arun held on to these words as tightly as he held his shovel. On the seventh day, as the sun climbed high and sweat stung his eyes, Arun heard something different, a faint, hopeful sound. It was the gentle trickle of water, almost too soft to believe. He lowered his bucket once more, heart pounding in his chest. This time, when he pulled it up, it was heavy, not with dust, but with water, cool and clear. Arun cried out with joy, his voice echoing across the fields. The villagers came running, unable to believe what they saw. The empty well was no longer empty. With Arun's persistence and faith, water rose from the depths, ready to quench the thirst of the land and its people. Soon, the fields turned green again. Crops thrived, and the village flourished. The well became a place of gathering, a symbol of hope restored. And whenever villagers spoke of that difficult season, they told the story of Arun, the farmer who believed in the impossible. But the story does not end there. As days turned to years, the lesson of the empty well rippled through the village and beyond. Children grew up hearing of the farmer who did not give up, even when everyone else doubted. They learned that belief in oneself is not just about stubbornness, but about seeing possibility where others see only emptiness. Arun's journey taught them that doubt is natural and that failure often comes before success. There were days when Arun questioned himself, when his hands ached and his heart faltered. But each time he looked at the well, he remembered that belief is not blind. It is a light that guides us through darkness, a force that drives us to action even when the outcome is uncertain. In the seasons that followed, the village faced new challenges, storms, pests, and lean years, but they faced them with a different spirit. They remembered Arun's example, and whenever they felt overwhelmed, they would gather by the well and remind each other, "If we believe, if we try, we can find water even in the driest places." Arun's story traveled beyond the village. Travelers carried the tale to distant towns, where it inspired others to look at their own empty wells, not with despair, but with the courage to try. Some found water, others found something else. the strength to keep going, to believe in themselves, even when the world said it was hopeless. And so, the lesson of the farmer and the empty well endures. It speaks to anyone who has ever faced a challenge that seemed insurmountable. It reminds us that within each of us lies a deep well of possibility, waiting to be uncovered by faith and effort. Believing in yourself is not about ignoring reality. It is about seeing beyond what is to what could be. It is about picking up your shovel, lowering your bucket, and trying again, even when the world calls your efforts foolish. For sometimes, as Arun discovered, it is in those moments of greatest doubt that we are closest to finding our greatest strength. So the next time you stand before your own empty well, whether it's a dream that seems out of reach, a problem that feels unsolvable, or a hope others have abandoned, remember the story of Arun, the farmer. Remember that belief can turn emptiness into abundance, and that the courage to try is often the first step toward making the impossible possible. And as the sun sets over the fields, painting the sky with the colors of hope, may you find the strength to believe in yourself, to lower your bucket just one more time, and to trust that the well within you is anything but empty.